Hey everybody, welcome to The Other Side of Addiction. I am Al Richards and I am here, as always, with my one and only beautiful, lovely assistant, or co-host, I don't know how you want to say it, Lori Warburton, the lady in red first responder. What's up, Lori?
Hey, how are you? I'm so glad to be here today, and we have another lovely person who's come to visit us today,
yes.
Marie, and we're so excited to hear her story and what she has to offer and bring all of our listeners. So, yeah, always a pleasure to be here with you, Al.
It's always a pleasure to be here with you. I look forward to Thursdays.
Me too.
Every single week. I mean, yeah. And I'm always excited about the guests. I go home and my wife's like, how was the podcast? I'm like, oh my gosh, it was so good. And she goes, you say that every week because it was so good. It was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. So we are here with our special guest, Marie. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for wanting to be on this show. And come out and share some experiences that you've had with addiction. So thank you so much. So Marie was born and raised in Murray, Utah. You've been married 33 years. Mm-hmm. My gosh, that's a long time.
It is a long time.
That is phenomenal. 3 grown children, 1 daughter. Oh, no. 3 grown children and 1 daughter-in-law. And a brand new baby granddaughter. How old is the granddaughter?
She's 2 weeks old.
That is brand new.
Fun.
Oh my gosh.
Yep,
oh
that
my
is
gosh.
exciting times.
Yeah, something about babies. I don't know.
For me, my grandkids, they're my life.
They rock our world, or they turn our world, basically. Yeah. So you are an owner of AAA Restoration, and that's the AAA Restoration Disaster, right?
It's actually AAA Restoration and Carpet Cleaning.
Oh, and carpet cleaning. Okay. Well, it says disaster here, but like I said, I messed up a bio earlier, so yeah, just ignore me, okay? You've been involved with several nonprofits, and you and I met through the Murray Chamber, right? Isn't that
yes,
where you
absolutely.
And I? Yeah, and you've been involved with the Murray Chamber for quite a few years.
I think about 27 years.
Wow, that's longer than I've
been
been
off and on, not consistent, but
right.
The last 4 or 5 years, pretty consistent.
And you've been part of the Exchange Club. How long have you been part of that?
I think about 3 years now.
Oh, okay.
The Murray Exchange Club does some pretty amazing things. We've put on a big haunted trails that raises a lot of money for child abuse. And we raised $20,000 in a 3-day little haunted trails at Murray Park.
So
that is so neat.
Amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. Let's see, what else you got going on here? You've been involved with the Children's Pantry, which I think is really, really cool. I've got a friend that does that kind of out at Copper Hills High School. And rolling into semi-retirement. Wow. So you're getting close? Are you just kind of like testing the waters or what?
So starting in January, my husband and I took our RV to Mesquite, and we would be gone from about Tuesday until Sunday, come home, work for a few days, then we would go back to Mesquite. And we were just kind of testing out the waters to see how the company would do without us, see what areas we needed to tweak and change, and it was a great experience. We're doing it again next year.
Oh, that is so cool. And I see you like riding the Razor.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just sold ours last year, and I am so bummed. So I do things backwards. So when my wife was going through all her addictions, we had to get rid of the truck. So I had no truck, but I had a trailer and a Razor. Well, then someone stole our trailer. So now I have no truck, no trailer, but a Razor. So I would always have to borrow somebody's truck and borrow somebody's trailer to take the Razor out. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to sell the Razor. So I sold the Razor last September. Guess what I went and did this past weekend? Now I have a truck.
Got a truck, yeah.
But it's like, okay, well, we're just kind of starting all over. That's where it's at. So you and I have known each other just for a couple years, basically. And I can't remember, did you reach out, or you've been watching some of our shows or seeing the stuff on Facebook, right?
I think you spoke at a Murray Chamber event
over
over
that's
at Rio.
Right, the luncheon. That was 2019.
Was it? Okay, yeah. And I think
so,
I talked to you a little bit after that. Then we kind of had common ground. And ever since then, when I see you at something, we always make sure to say hi and connect.
Always have to get a hug.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're like huggables here. we're always hugging.
Well, even with a year off of COVID.
We're like the
we
Care
didn't-
Bears,
We didn't
right?
hug much in COVID, but
Yeah. I don't know.
We still snuck them in.
I snuck my hugs in. Of course, I would ask beforehand. I'm like, "Are you okay with the hug?" Yeah, come here. So you've not battled with addiction, but you've had a loved one that has battled with addiction. But before we really start getting into that, just tell us a little bit more about yourself. I mean, growing up, family life. Tell us a little bit more about it.
well, I only live a couple of blocks away from where I grew up. I've pretty much always stayed pretty much base camp right around the same area, just middle class, grew up right by the mall, pretty normal family. My dad had a problem with alcohol. My brother had a problem with alcohol. And my sister just started struggling rather early in life. We had a suicide attempt at 12.
Gosh, that is such a young age to
It-
think about taking your life.
It was kind of an attention thing, I think, looking back at it now, but it was still probably not handled correctly. You have to think about this time frame in the early 80s, late 70s. People you didn't care about your children's feelings and stuff quite as much as we do right now. And then she had a pregnancy towards, I don't know that she was quite 14 yet. And that caused a lot of strife. And during that pregnancy, there was a lot of runaways. There was a lot of bad choices being made. And the baby was given up for adoption. And that really set the stage for her of a downhill spiral. And she was married for a while, moved away, came back, and it's been quite a challenge for her in her life. She's had a lot of bouts of homelessness. We've all tried. We've housed her multiple times. And then there would be problems with police activity or these things at wherever she lived, and it seemed like it would derail again. So it was a really hard time. And then my dad and my brother died in mid-90s. So that left my mom to deal with her, who I felt was really enabling her. And then my mom passed away. Then I turned around and did the same exact thing. I got her an apartment, we set her up, and it turned into a disaster. At that time, I have 3 little kids, a booming business. I have a lot of social things going on. My husband's coaching basketball, Little League. Our life is going great, and her life was just spiraling. I was carrying so much guilt for my success, and she wasn't doing well. So I went to some Al-Anon meetings. I checked in with some clergy, spoke with some people from the road home because she was a frequent flyer there, and just took in all the information I could from all of these people. And it was determined that it was just time for me to let her be her, and I just needed to focus on being a wife, mom, and running my business and doing my community things that I was involved in. And it was freeing, but then I still have those pangs of feeling bad, and I still feel bad
Yeah.
all the time. Like whenever someone's dead on tracks or they find someone floating in the Jordan River, I always pay attention to those newscasts and think, is it, and it hasn't been thus far, but that's my story.
Wow.
Wow, I can relate to you in a lot of different ways. I have a brother who is in jail right now, and he was a millionaire at one time, and he became homeless. And he also went missing from not only my life, but our whole family's life. We didn't know if he was dead or alive. And when we found him, it just gave me chills. When I saw him, he looked like the Unabomber. I mean, I didn't even know. And he was kind of crazy, and he let this, not only the addiction, but the power of money, get him involved with the wrong crowd. So because I'm the one in my family, nobody else would help me or have anything to do. So I completely understand. I gave up my home and my life and all of this. When I say my life, I just mean my peace and things like this, because you know what I'm talking about,
Absolutely.
right? And opened my home to him, and they said, well, you're the one with the room, you're the one, we all have a family, you don't have anybody there. And so, okay, yes, and I also am a recovering alcoholic, see, so I had the experience to help him and to work with him, like at a round table and everything, people have to want the help. And that's one thing that, I mean, I thought he wanted that, you know what I mean? And so I went through bouts and bouts and bouts for, like I say, over 5 years. And it got to the point where I'm right with you, where I had to say, I can't sleep at night. You know, he's in my home. I don't even want to leave to do anything because I'm afraid of what will happen. And yeah, it just was a downward spiral from there. And I had to take him back many times just to the homeless shelter and say, I'll come and visit you once a week and get my healthy boundaries back from where they were. But it's ripped my heart out for, you know, and now he's in jail right now. So I think he gets out on July 5th, and he keeps calling and hoping he'll have a place to stay with me, and I just can't, you know, I can't do that this time. So
Isn't it? It's a relief though, huh? Because when my wife used to get arrested and go and get thrown in jail, I would actually have just such relief come over me because I knew where she was. She had a roof over her head, and I knew she was somewhat safe. You know, I mean, jail's not a pretty place, but at least I knew where she was at.
yeah, jail for me is the relief, but the homeless shelter wasn't, because every time I had to pull up there to pick him up to go take him to lunch and see, my thing was I'd see his progress. If he was making progress, then maybe I'd spend a little more time or find another day to visit him, and that's kind of how I was going to do it with the progress. But then that just never happened. And then one day he came out to my car with this big, like a Santa Claus sack full of all of his stuff, saying, can I just do some laundry? But he had like everything with him, and I was like, what's going on here? And he just expected that he was going to come and live with me again. When I told him no and I took him back, that's when he decided to turn himself in, because he had several warrants, and so he's been serving lots of time. And yeah,
sometimes that's not a bad place for them to
No.
be because they're safe. So I'm on the spectrum where this has gone on for a very long time. She's 2 years younger than me, and she's over 50, so that kind of puts my age in perspective. It seems to have done significant brain damage. To try to talk to her, it's all over the place. Her speech will be slurred even at 7 a.m. in the morning, whether she's drunk or that's just her speech. So I have read, some of your brain will actually shrink and you get the water on the brain. And
they call
and
it
some
mush
of those
brain,
things.
I think. That's what my wife said that they call it.
Yeah, so now I don't believe that she can even function in society without a lot of help. She's being housed right now, something through a program, I think it's called Connect. It was the road home, the homeless shelter, and they would have the chronic homeless people, and then they find them somewhere, pay their rent, and someone else is helping pay her utilities. So her basic needs are being met where she's at right now, but now my fear is her inability to get along with neighbors, her inability to have basic care, like take the garbage out and not have, problems like that. Is pretty significant.
So let me ask you this. I said on another show that I had an addiction as well, and my addiction was my wife's addiction. I'm sure from what you just shared, it consumed you like it probably consumed me. Because I mean,
you feel bad.
I lived it every single day, even though I wasn't the one that had the addiction, but I was addicted to her addiction because you want to help them, you want to save them, you love them, you don't want to see anything bad, and it just starts consuming your life, and pretty soon you start neglecting you, and you start neglecting other things.
When you become a true codependent person, and the only process I never got through the Al-Anon program was, in no way did her addiction serve me. Like I could never get that one. I don't know if you went through that program. Like it has never served me for her to be like this. I wish for her to be successful, and I wish for her to have had a life, and I don't know why she didn't. but it didn't make me be the good sister and her the bad sister or anything like that. And so, like I said, there's still those little pings of guilt and things. And until you spoke about it, not one person in chamber for 27 years would have any idea that I even had a sister, because it's nothing I would have brought up, and I felt safe, so I spoke with you a little bit. And so your circle's so small. So by you doing these shows and people speaking of these problems, I think it's making it more normalized to talk about it. Because I think we'll be hard-pressed to find someone that doesn't have a problem like this in their family.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. There's so many different issues, not only with alcoholism, but with drug addiction and all of that. And it brings so much pain. And it's like, it's a family problem. It becomes that, and when I say I only dealt with my brother for 5 years, that's not true either. I mean, the last phone call I had with him, he was begging me to come and pick him up from this Salt Lake City. He was staying in a Hilton hotel or something. And, I said, well, are you on anything? Are you, and I'm like, I'm not exactly in the best spot to help you right now. And it was when I was going through a really downhill spiral in my life as well. But I said, if you're not in that predicament, I'll see what I can do. So anyway, I did a health and well check. I sent the police out there. And anyway, once he got wind of that, I think he knew. He had called me and he said, just never mind with your help, because I'm just going to go kill myself. And hung up the phone. And then I didn't hear from him again. Those feelings inside, because he was the only one that would talk to him in our whole entire family, that left me with what you're talking about, all these pings and pangs and all of that. And then all that time went by, and that's when we found him. I mean, he was talking with this Irish accent and all these different things, and we're going, wow, who's this guy? Out of his mind, And so it was really hard to find him that way. But then hopefully, I mean, there's always hope with me, that he might pull himself together and get better. And I don't know, sobriety through the jail, comes. And then hopefully this time is the last time he'll do that. I mean, he's in his 50s as well right now. And so I want the best for him. But I guess I'm a little wiser now, only because I know that my peace means a lot. And I give a lot of myself when I love and care for people, and so I have to be careful with that too, because it's something that does consume.
Well, a normal-minded person can think that I get a do-over every day. Like, he could wake up and tomorrow could change his life. My sister tomorrow could get out of bed and go, okay, I'm going to acknowledge that I have a problem. Where she's still in that situation where it's pretty much everyone else's problem. There's no accountability yet. She's been picked up so many times for public intoxication that the police will not take her in anymore. They call me and want me to come get her. Yeah. And I'm to the point where I go, no, just take her in. They go, we don't want to. And I'm like, I'm not picking her up, so you need to do what you need to do.
Went through the same thing.
And my brother's he's done that as well. And then now his thing was, before he went to jail, he'd just go to the hospital, fake he was, you know what I mean? And then they'd try to put him under these evaluations, and he'd fake them all out or do whatever. And then, so now he's not welcome at those hospitals either. Now they have to treat you if you have a problem, if you go in, but he can no longer go into their programs or stay in the rehabilitation part of it or anything like that. So he's lost his privileges there as well. So we can really relate to your story.
Well, they get really innovative about, they're actually smart.
Yeah.
And they know how to work it. So
they know, they're very good manipulators. Very, very good. And my wife, I mean, we've been together 15 years, and even the 3 years we were dating, I mean, she didn't have the alcoholism at that time, I never pictured her as a manipulator, ever. It didn't, not even one little sign showed up. But when she got into the alcoholism as deep as she did, I mean, holy cow. I mean, she was pulling the wool over my eyes many, many, many times. She knew how to, it's, I don't know if for the folks that know what jigging is when you're fishing, but she just knew how to sit there and just work that bait till finally I just took it. And then once I took it, man, she had me, and I had no clue she even had me. It would just blow me away. And it's hard for us, right? Because we love this person and we know who this person really is. I mean, it's the alcohol that has changed them. That's just how I see it. But it's so hard because when you got someone that you care about and you don't know where they're at, you don't know what's happening, it's difficult not to think about it a lot. And there was times I really had to catch myself and go, okay, I got to get this out of my head, and I'd have to go do something to keep me busy and keep me occupied. But, our brain works really good. That subconscious just keeps trying to put it back into the front. So, I mean, it's had to be hard for you and in your family, even before your mom passed in that, right? I'm sure it was very difficult for everybody.
It about killed my mom and dad. Like, it was just a serious, significant thing. But I think that's probably why I've dove so deep into my charity work that I do. Especially our children's food pantry. We pack up about 4,500 backpacks a month, and those are how many meals, not backpacks, meals per month that we give out. And in some way, I think that helps cancel me out because I'm worried that she hasn't had food or she hasn't done these things. So yeah. I'm like, these children are innocent. I don't know what's going on with their parents, but at least they're getting some dinner. So I've taken kind of service projects to like an almost unhealthy level because I'm trying to counterbalance my guilt, I think, for her. And then, my success has been from hard work. My husband put in 18 hours a day when we first started our business. He still works 7 days a week when we're here. And when we get away, he needs to decompress. We've earned where we are in life. And I need to still check myself at times from that guilty feeling of that, she's, she at least has somewhere to live right now, but she's, not doing well in society.
She's her own person.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's this whole thing. I mean, like you said, we're even at 7:00 in the morning, she talks like she's drunk. I mean, when my wife had her very last episode, I think she was pretty close to death. After she got out of detox, usually 24 hours after she gets out of detox, because of the medication that they give you, she was usually right back to normal. This last time, it was the same way. She could hardly get a word out. She would start something and then it would end up something else. And she couldn't even walk. I mean, she basically just shuffled her feet. And, she's walking like this. And I just kept thinking, well, maybe it was the medication that they gave her. And then after about the third day, I'm like, I finally told her straight up, I'm like, there's something wrong with you. And she just started bawling. And she's like, I know, she goes, I'm so scared. And I'm like, yeah, you should be. With all the alcohol you put in your system. She's 5'2", weighs 112 pounds, and she was dumping alcohol in her like we put gas in our car. And, my uncle did a blessing for her, and about a week and a half after that, all of a sudden she's just started coming around. And she said that she had a spiritual awakening when she was in jail last time, and she just got her 6-month chip last Friday at an AA meeting, and she said that, and then she looked right at me and she goes, my husband's probably rolling his eyes because I said I've had a spiritual experience in jail I don't know how many times, but this one was like really. And she says, and she goes, as soon as I got out of jail, I drank. As soon as I got out. That's what put me in jail, but as soon as I got out, I drank. But she says all of a sudden that feeling just hit her really, really strong. The story I was sharing with you before we got on about a friend that called me Tuesday to share her story about her son's alcoholism. And she was saying all these things that you and I and Lori have all done to try to help our loved ones. And she was like, what do I do? And I'm like, get on with your life. That is the best thing that you can do, because I was telling my wife about it when I got home, and she goes, "It's all up to that person. It's all up to them. They either just have to wake up one day and decide, I'm done living this way." And there is hope. Lori shares this many, many times in all our shows. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Right now, you may be looking through a straw and all you see is a little teeny dot. But as you start taking those baby steps towards changing your life, that hole gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and pretty soon you're starting to see things a lot clearer. So, yeah, it breaks my heart to hear that, your sister's there at that part.
Well, she's got cirrhosis as well, and
oh no.
that's not a good way to go out either. And so I think that your health will it's gonna come sooner or later. So
Yeah.
hopefully your wife caught it while she still got her mind and while she still has her liver and some of those other problems that it can cause. So
Yeah,
it's a good time.
luckily her liver's been tested. This last health stuff that she's gone through, they've tested her liver. It's all, I don't know how. I mean, it's got to be because of God. It seriously does. Yeah, I don't know how that little gal's liver is not pickled right now. I just really don't. But there's another reason, maybe behind all this. So, wow.
Well, I wish her the best, and I wish her brother the best, and
Thank
I
you.
just hope their paths go in the right direction for them.
Yeah, I hope so too. I never give up hope for anybody, and even for your sister, but I think it's neat that you've been able to be there for her and have that experience. I'm actually glad that I went through that with my brother. I think there's a reason for that. I don't think we're done, and I still think that I may be an inspiration to him, because I know that if at least one person believes in you and cares about you, believe me, it makes a difference. But for me, to be able to let go and just actually shut the door, it was so hard for me, so I know where you're coming from. But be free, and I had to tell myself that too. I've worked really hard on myself for a long time, and it's easy to feel like I feel like success and failure are so close together in so many
absolutely.
different things.
Yeah.
And I feel that everybody deserves, especially when you've worked as hard as you and your husband have, to get to where you're at, that you can have that healthy feeling. And I get chills a little bit talking about it, because at the same time, as sad as I was, I'm not the one who could take my brother to jail, so I had to call my other brother who won't have anything to do with him. This is the one thing I can't do, so you're gonna have to go get him, and take him. But just knowing that I have been to help him, to be there, to do that, just think if you didn't do that, even more how you would feel, right? So you should be proud of yourself, and at the same time, but you don't need to be glorified by it at all. But you were probably, that heaven sent to her, one of the angels here on earth that are meant to give her that support and love. It's okay to feel guilty in that, but I don't anymore. I don't. These tears are because I feel like he needed that from me, from someone in our family, and there may be more for her, but letting go is completely okay. Having your healthy boundaries, keeping in touch somehow is okay, but we all need that break from
Well,
that.
and protecting your own peace
Mhm,
is
exactly.
a really important thing, because when you let people disrupt your peace enough,
That's
it's
why I was
really
saying I
hard.
couldn't sleep at night, and my whole home just felt so different, And now when he's looking to come out and wanting to come back again, and I have to be strong and say no, I'm still okay with that. I'll still be there. I'm still going to help him in certain ways, right? But I can no longer let him come back in, whether he's been in jail and sober now this long or not. So I don't want you to, feel like that anymore, because you deserve
Well,
to have that happiness.
thank you very much. Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Have you found it helpful for you to talk about it, or have you not really talked about it?
I have not spoke about this. There's
Yeah.
a lot of even my close personal friends that wouldn't know this story. So
Yeah,
more shame, I think, on my part.
yeah, because I was the same way.
We always talk about the embarrassment here of how we're embarrassed,
Yeah.
My current relationship boyfriend, he has a son in prison as well, and we always talk about how this show has really helped us a lot with all the people. So thank you so much for coming on and being brave enough to come and share, because it opens up doors for others. We've learned a lot, and how we're going to handle when he comes out as well is much different than it looked to us in the beginning. You know what I mean? So your story is going to touch many people's lives, and it's just you'll find a healing process in your sharing with others. So
Yeah, and you touched base with the embarrassment, because I kept my wife's addiction to myself for a long, long time. The release and the relief that I felt once I started getting it off my shoulders. I mean, I was thinking about taking my own life because of what was going on at my home life. And I'm on a rodeo committee, and my aunt was coming down to the rodeo grounds to get some tickets that I had for her and my uncle, and she said, "So, how's your wife?" And I just broke down and started bawling right there at the rodeo grounds. Right there, my aunt's looking at me like, maybe I shouldn't have asked. That was the first family member. I says, my wife's an alcoholic. When I started sharing, even like when I spoke at the luncheon at the Murray Chamber, even though I got emotional and everything, but getting it off my shoulders helped so much. But we do feel embarrassed, and it's the fear of being judged as well. What are our friends going to think of us? We had a gal from USARA Family Support Group that was on our show. Matter of fact, I think it was our third show, and she lost a son to addiction. But she goes, if I went to my family and my neighbors and told them my son has cancer, people would be calling me, sending me emails. What can I do? How can I help? But she says, if I
bringing casseroles.
Yeah, bringing casseroles. But she said, now, if I told them my son had an addiction, nobody's going to be knocking on my door bringing me casseroles, because it's taboo. One of the things, like Lori just shared, our guests are helping us as well, and we're hoping we're doing the same with them, because we believe, I'm not saying we're right, but we believe that the more we get this out there, hopefully people are going to start feeling that same way. They're not going to hold it in. They're not going to be embarrassed, because there's no reason to be embarrassed. There's no reason. If people have a problem with it, that's their problem, because it helps us so much. I mean, that's one thing where Al-Anon works for some people, is because they have that chance of getting it off their shoulders and sharing it with like-minded people.
So if you can save one life, that's all that matters. You know what I mean? And I almost lost my son a year and a half ago. He was also an alcoholic, but years back I was so involved in my own that I didn't notice his. So when he and his wife actually got sober just by themselves, they didn't get help or anything. They just decided one day they were just going to do that. And then life hit them all of a sudden, and I'm part of that equation, and it was really hard for me to go through that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
But I'm so glad and proud to have him here today. You know what I mean? And just me doing this show with Al, and hopefully we'll get his wife to come on and tell the story.
She's getting close.
She's getting closer to wanting
close.
to do that.
Yeah.
And just to watch them and their journey and how neat. I mean, I almost didn't have him. You know what I mean? But I'm thankful for each step that I'm taking towards these things, and you're even part of that equation because you're here. And just like I said, being brave, because once you become willing to share your experience, strength, and hope with others, even people that you wouldn't have imagined, just like no one would imagine you, right, having a sister and the things you're going with.
Well, when Al first asked me to be on the show, I thought I'm kind of a what not to do list. And I think we all feel that way. Because I'm like, how can I say that I've done anything correct? Because nothing feels right. Even if you follow your heart, you still feel bad for every choice that you've made. And so I don't know that my way of dealing with her has been correct, but my way of dealing with her saved me and helped me be a good mom and helped me be a good wife and stay focused on my family. And that's really what my job on this earth was. And so hopefully...
That's a good point. Very
hopefully
proud.
she can pull it together before the phone call that I've been dreading for years comes. But she's very end stage, I would say. So not really sure how we'll deal with that either. So...
Yeah, it's none of us know if we're doing things right. I mean, even as parents, right? We raise our kids the best that we can raise them, and we take things that our parents did with us, and there's other things our parents did with us that we're like, no, we'll kick that one to the gutter, They don't teach us this stuff in school.
No.
I mean, they don't even teach us how to deal with life in school, which I think that should be at least a 2-period class, at least, and it should be one that's, what do they say, like history and all that is like it's a class you must take. All the other stuff, reading, writing, all that stuff, yeah, we need that, but by golly, we need to learn a little bit more of what life is really like out there, because how would you know? I mean, did you know that you were going to end up trying to help your sister beat alcoholism? I mean, how would you know, right?
Right. And I would say, if anything, I don't know that initially after my mom died, when I helped set her up and I saw what happened to that was my point of being able to let go. And there's so many things I wish I had helped more, or I had done this or that. But the minute that I stopped supplying money, then she really stopped even reaching out to me. So when she would call me, I'd say I'd offer a hot meal or do these things, which is what I was told to do by the people that wrote home. And then she pretty much didn't really want a relationship with me other than to try to get some money.
Yeah.
And so that's really where it's been for about 10 years, I'd say.
Wow, that
wow,
long, huh?
shoot.
So.
Yeah, well, I would always offer my brother, you can come here and take a shower. I'll make you your favorite dinner, that kind of thing, and maybe stay the night a night. But then he really started taking advantage of that, and one night would turn into 5 nights, and then 2 to 3 weeks, and then I'm into it, and I'm like, So, but the money part is right, and he would also ask for money, and that's one thing I didn't give a lot to him of. I gave him my time, my support, and all of that, and I really didn't have, hundreds and thousands to give, I wanted to give him, but I knew what he would do with it. So, but that was just because I've been down the path of, knowing that myself. So,
yeah. And I really do think it helps to share. But again, you're your own individual, what works best for you. I just know what it did for me once I started sharing. What's really crazy is once I did start sharing, now I've been active in the West Jordan Chamber for 10 years or so, and I got to know a lot of people. I've networked with a handful of people that just started pulling me off to the side going, hey, do you got a minute to talk? And I'm like, yeah. And we'd go off to the corner away from people, and it's like, I don't know if you knew, but I was an alcoholic, or I was an addict, or my wife, or my husband, or my son, or my daughter. And I mean, I get goosebumps right now just even thinking. It's just like, is it that bad? I mean, seriously. I mean, the more I started sharing and the more people started coming to me, I started realizing they say cancer affects almost every family out there. I am now a firm believer that addiction affects almost every single family out there, especially now. I have heard so many news stories of since 2020, people who were just fine, loved life, everything. It's like they have just turned a complete 360. And they're either drugging or they're alcoholing or it's into the porn or it's a food, gaming.
Abuse. There's
Abuse.
a lot of abuse.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I'm just going, I remember it was probably April or May. My wife, I think, had just got out of a rehab. And we were driving down 90th South and we drove by the liquor store. And it was whenever they opened the liquor store back up, may even been later than that in the year, but the lines going down and down the side of the building, you can see. And I told my wife, or I said, this COVID thing is going to create a ton of new alcoholics. A ton. And she's like, how can you say that? You're judging people. And I'm like, no, I'm not judging people. I'm saying it because it's got people in such an uproar, and so many people are the fear of it. Look at the line at the liquor store. You don't see that line like that. I mean, yeah, you used to be able to go into the store, but there still wasn't that many people in the store unless it was Christmas time. You know, and I'm going, there's something bad that's happening with this in a different way.
When people are sitting home all evening watching Netflix and cracking a bottle. Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Oh, it's crazy. But
I do think that the truth sets you free. So now it's out there, so no one can hurt me with it. But I had an event before I came here, and I said, I'm going to go do a podcast with Al Richards. I had 3 people sitting at my table. They go, why? What? Do you have a problem in your family? I go, I do. I do, as a matter of fact. And I took my purse. I was like, they were like shocked.
Yeah.
That, I would have this big, deep, dark secret, which really isn't a secret.
Well, again, though, we do our best to hold it in because we don't want people to know. I mean, I've attended a men's group. It was held every single Monday, and the gentleman that was holding it just moved out of state. But one of the guys that came, he said, if people would stop pretending that their life is so wonderful, this world would be a better place. And it got all of us starting to think, oh my gosh, because you see things put on Facebook and you look at some people and you're going, man, these guys, they got their life together. I mean, look at these trips they're going on, and look at this, and oh my gosh, they got a new car, and oh, this brand new, I mean, life is hunky-dory. He says, I bet if you dove deep, those families are struggling with something. And it really started making me think, because I shared things about my wife's alcoholism on Facebook, but just here and there. It wasn't an everyday thing. I didn't want people to feel sorry for me. Lori mentioned that in one of our other shows. We don't want people to feel sorry for us, and I think I even said that in my talk at the lunch. It's like I don't want people to come, oh, poor you, everything's going to be okay. No, I don't want that. It's getting the word out there to let people know there's a problem, and the more we talk about it, I think the better it's going to be for all of us.
Because it's real. It's real talk, it's real people, it's real emotions. There's no hidden agendas or anything like that. We're just literally having a conversation, trying to learn from each other.
Yeah,
And if
exactly.
we did that more, if people learned from each other more every day and weren't so afraid to talk about certain things, I think it would bring all of us up and more in uniform together. It takes a lot to do it. It does.
Oh, yeah.
Remember the first time I spoke about mine, no one would ever have known I had any issue or problem or whatever within myself, being in the positions I was in at work and in the community and everything like that. And so it was really hard for me to push that button on Facebook and share my story, because all my employers would see that, the people I worked with, and I just didn't care at that point. And once I did that, and the outpouring of love that came from that was huge, just completely huge. And that's why I decided that this was part of why I'm here, why the big guy upstairs saved me, so I can help other people to become stronger and let them know it's okay, None of us are perfect.
No.
Lori and I say that's one of the reasons why we met each other. We met each other just through Facebook. She was
really?
kind of following my Facebook and gets a hold of me and was like, hey, I want to meet. And we met for coffee, and we both started sitting down talking, and we had almost the same type of things going on in our life. We both wanted to do a podcast to help other people, and we both want to become the speakers and go out and talk about it, because people definitely need to know what's going on. And some of the stuff that I shared on Facebook, what little I did, I was even shocked of a lot of people that were coming to me going, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And and I would even put in there, I'm not selling you this to feel sorry for me, I'm just putting it out there. I want people to know that there's a problem out there. And I mean, we've had people come on our show. Janessa, I mean, she's a huge example, to come on and talk about her husband's sex addiction and share it. That girl's got a ton of guts.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
she did phenomenal. Matter of fact, her podcast just aired this past Monday, and the hits that she's getting on it, it's telling us right there, people want to hear it and they want to know, because she survived through it. All her girlfriends, family, and everybody's, oh yeah, you got to get rid of him, you got to dump him, you got to do this, you got to do that. I had the same thing. You deserve better, you got to get rid of her, and you got to get on with your life. Well, I did get on with my life eventually, but thank goodness she jumped on the same train with me. But that's the whole purpose of talking about it. That's why we say thank you so much for somebody like yourself who comes on the show and is willing to share.
Well, I admire both of your ability for forgiveness and keeping that heart open, where that's probably a much bigger struggle with me than with you guys. I kind of have a hard time with that forgiveness level of this whole situation. So you guys are really great examples of that.
Thank you. We were talking about that a little earlier, and I think that that's one of the gifts that I was given with, was loving unconditionally and forgiveness. My family talks about it a lot. They're like, I don't know how that you can forgive these things that have gone on throughout your life, and which have been pretty brutal, to say the least. And sometimes I look back and I'm like, but that's just what you're supposed to do, is forgive, and if I couldn't do that, I couldn't love myself and go on, and so I have this thing within me where I really can't even stay mad for more than 5 minutes, no matter what it is. I mean, it might be really hurtful, you know what I mean, but my forgiveness is just I don't know how to call it automatic. I mean, there are steps you go through, and there's different steps of forgiveness, but I'm so grateful that I've been allowed that ability. And now I'm teaching that. My son's a highway patrolman, and he stood up in front of our family. We're kind of doing a special little get together, and he was like, that's one of the examples that my mom was shown. And then he just started crying, because he says, I don't know how she does it, but now she's teaching me to be able to forgive, throughout some of the things that I caused them too. I mean, I caused a lot of hurt in my family's life early on, after my mom had passed away, and I went behind closed doors and started isolating myself, and kind of started losing my identity after her death, because she was my best friend, and I closed my family completely out, and they didn't deserve that, but now they're forgiving me, and we're all every year we just become closer. But it wasn't until I became accountable for myself, and realizing why I was making these choices I made, even though bad things happened to me, and they do to good people, there was a reason I was choosing those things. And until, like your sister, sometimes unless you find that seed, that reason why you're choosing these things, sometimes it's so scary to understand what that is. And I'm a true believer that until you can get to that seed, it's too scary to, or too hurtful maybe, to try to go through. And so you just keep choosing something else.
Mm-hmm.
But the day I decided not to do that anymore, my life changed forever.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Let's touch back on forgiveness just a little bit when we come back from our break. We're going to take a quick little break here, and we'll come back, and let's just touch a little bit more on forgiveness, and we'll just kind of go from there. And again, we appreciate you coming on the show. So, guys, we'll be right back.
How do you start your morning? Start it with a cup of High Point coffee. Because no matter where you go or what you do, it's always better with coffee. High Point coffee. What's your high point? Located on the corner of 7800 South and Redwood Road in West Jordan. And a special thanks goes out to our partners in Oxford, Mississippi.
This is Gregory, owner of Lift Up Concrete, proudly serving the Wasatch Front for the last 12 years, lifting sunken flatwork for both residential and commercial applications. Only fully trained professionals lifting concrete at your residence with the same quality of material and method used at every commercial job we ever do. Don't replace it, lift it. liftupconcrete.net, 801-792-4535. Contact us at liftupconcrete.net, or if you're looking for a complimentary quote, 801-792-4535. Again, 801-792-4535. Again, this is Gregory, Lift Up Concrete Lifting.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the other side of addiction. We'd like to take some time right now to thank our sponsors, High Point Coffee in West Jordan on the corner of 7800 South and Redwood Road. Those guys are phenomenal, and their drinks are incredible. We also want to thank Lift Up Concrete out of Kaysville. If you got sunken or settled concrete, give Gregory a call at Lift Up Concrete. And one of our newest sponsors, and I'm so excited to have these guys, Serve Pro out of West Jordan, but they're coming in as a sponsor for all Serve Pros around the valley. So thank you guys for your sponsorships. Thank you for your support. We couldn't be doing this without you. And we have to say thank you to Brad and Resilience Talk Network, because again, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our sponsors and Brad. We get to use this incredible equipment that makes me sound so flippin' sexy. I love it. Anyway, it does to me. I don't know about the rest of you guys. Anyway, hey, so we had a first half of a really good show. Before we broke, we were talking a little bit about fear. Is that correct? Forgiveness. Thank you. See,
and fear.
We only had a short break, and I still forgot. So, well, yeah. So forgiveness. That's a tough one. I was on a Zoom call the first of the week with a gal that's out of California, and that's what she teaches is forgiveness. And she shared with me why she decided to do this, because she's had some pretty bad things happen in her life that she has done, but also what family members have done. And Lori, I know you'll agree with this. The first thing we have to do is forgive ourselves before we can forgive others.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we don't do things right all the time. So you said earlier in the show that you didn't think that things were handled the proper way from the time your sister was young, and even as an adult, things that you felt like.
Right.
For the listeners out there, we don't have a clue what we're doing. There's no manual for us to get. Now, there's classes like Al-Anon and different things, and there's other support groups out there. But I hope this makes you feel better. When my wife would drink, I would get so mad. I wish, and I've hoped and I've prayed that I wouldn't have said some of the things that I said to her, because I said some very mean things and some very hurtful things to her, thinking that's what I was supposed to do. I'm protecting myself, but I'm angry. I did it over and over and over and over to that girl. She already had a lot of disrespect for herself, and it's a word I don't use in my vocabulary, but I'm going to word. But she had a lot of hate in herself, and things that's happened in her life, and things that she did. It took me 7 years to figure it out. I was taking this class, and it's called Craft Family Support Group. USARA puts it on, and these people volunteer, and they go through and they do this training, and everybody in this class has a family member that is battling addiction, all types of addictions. I was talking during the class one time, and I was saying some of the things that I did, and mean things that I did to my wife. And somebody asked a question, how did that work out for you? And I'm like, it didn't work out at all. But that's all I knew. For 7 years, I did the same thing over and over, and it was like Groundhog Day. Every time she drank, it was like what happened the day before was happening again. And it would happen again the next day, and happen again the next day. I had no clue what to do. I didn't even realize there were other family support groups out there. So Al-Anon didn't work for me. I have an aunt that loves it. It works. It sounds like it was a great fit for you. I think some of the groups are different. The group I went to, it just wasn't a fit for me. If I would have known about Craft Family Support Group 4 years ago, I think it really would have helped me. I really had to forgive myself, and I had to work extremely hard at it because of the things that I did wrong. I had to tell myself I was doing what I thought was right. I was doing what I thought I needed to do to protect me and hopefully get it in her head what was going on. I mean, I used to tell her, you don't want to get better. Yeah, you don't want to get better. You don't give a crap about our marriage. You don't give a crap about me. Your number one love is alcohol. And I remember times she'd just be there sobbing, going, "That's not true. I love you." And it's like, the hell if you do. Because if you did, you would get your shit together. You know? The woman never stopped loving me. The love was always there. She just had something that had a hold on her greater. And until I did what you have done, got on with my life, and learning how to communicate differently, that's when the things change. So don't beat yourself up, because yeah, we all go through things that don't work, and it's our experiences that help grow us and help us learn. You know, and Lori's a great example, because she's been on both sides. She's been the addict, and she's been a mom of an addict. So she's been on both sides. I learn a lot from Lori because of her experiences and what she's learned through that. And I think that's where doing these podcasts and having guests like yourself on the show, where it really helps all of us. You know, maybe this sounds kind of selfish, but it's just not really for our guests, it's for us too. You know?
Yeah, one thing I'd like to bring up that I think's important is to not keep going to the past, because even with what you just said, Al, it's like you just kept going back to the past
Yeah.
and pulling it out.
Yeah.
The person going through the experience already knows every bad thing they've ever done, or they already feel really horrible inside, and they're just trying to, like, it's a disease, you know, it's a sickness. And, you know, if we can learn to someone who's trying to get a little bit better, if we can learn not to throw the past at them all the time and move forward, the more I, push my past to the past and just keep growing and moving forward, the better I feel, and the more freedom I get, from that as well. But don't get me wrong, I always peek back to see how far I've come. I think that's super important, right? Because that's a part of who I am today. But I will tell you that every weakness that I've ever had has now become my strength.
That's
And
great.
not everybody, is going to go along the same path. That's why we all have a different journey. You know what I mean? But I feel like staying in the past is not a good thing. I like staying in the day.
That's why they call it the past.
Yeah.
Right?
Don't go to the past. Like, for somebody, I don't know, I think it's good for anyone. Stay in today. Deal with what you're dealing with today. If you happen to talk to your sister, you deal with that moment and in the day, and try to learn healthy talk, behaviors, things like that as you're speaking with her. And even though they might try to throw some things at you because they're not in a healthy frame of mind, you're in a more healthy state, and you can maybe learn some, language there. But don't carry it to the next day, or just kind of deal with what you have in that day and then try to let it go. It's really hard, but that's kind of how I have to do every day of my life now. I still make goals and plans and all of those kind of things, but staying in there will help a lot.
great.
So
I was at a class a couple years ago, and the guy that was teaching the class, he goes, "Have you ever been to the park where, you've got the pond and the ducks are out there? And you'll see a mallard go attack another mallard." And I said, "Wah, wah, 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 wah," and the birds, they fly off, and all of a sudden, the one that was being attacked just goes off by itself, and it floats, and it just kind of shuttles its wings like that, and then just goes around, just starts floating around and eating and stuff like that. He's like, that's how we need to treat every bad thing that happens in our life, because it's only at that moment that it happens. We are the only creature on the planet that I know of, and through books and stuff that I've read and through their scientific stuff, but we're the only ones that sit and dwell on things. I mean, if a deer gets chased by a mountain lion, of course it's running for fear and trying to save its life, and it gets away from the mountain lion. That deer doesn't sit and go, "Oh my gosh, where's that mountain lion?" It doesn't dwell on it. It just goes about and starts feeding and just goes about its day and its life. Humans, we sit there and we just continually play. That's why I love that movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Because it's like you go through the same thing over and over and over. You're trying to figure out that lesson, but like you said, they end up becoming your strengths. You end up learning so much. And I hit my knees so many doggone times and asked God, why do I continue to go through it? And I think I continued to go through it because that was my Groundhog Day until that light bulb finally went off to make me realize this is the reason why I'm going through it. And this is why we're doing what we're doing, to get it out there and not be ashamed. I mean, I had a friend tell me once on a message on a text when she listened to our very first podcast that Lori and I did, and she goes, "Man, if you were my husband and you talked about that," she goes, "I would just cringe." And it's like, well, you know what? It's okay because that's how you look at it. But my wife and I, we've talked about it. And when I first started talking, she thought I was doing it to make her look bad. She finally opened her eyes, got herself sober, and started thinking right. And goes, "No, he's not doing it to make me look bad. He's doing it to get other people to know it needs to be talked about." And that's how we see it. So if somebody thinks we're crazy for doing what we're doing, that's their choice, but to be able to get it out there and share, it helps. And you never know, if you decide to start talking, or if people come up to you and they hear this podcast and they go, "Oh my gosh, I had no clue," and then you start telling them their story or your story, you just may be helping that person because you don't know. And some of the messages that we are getting, I'm still shocked every single week when a podcast come out, the messages that we're getting from people going, "You gave us a whole new perspective," or "I never thought of that," or just the energy and the love that we have. And I was at Topgolf yesterday with a buddy and his wife, a couple buddies and their wives and girlfriends. And this guy, I won't mention his name over because he's like the macho man, and no, he's a phenomenal guy. I love this guy to death. But he was sharing with me yesterday. He goes, "I've been listening and following your podcast," and he goes, "You have made me cry 3 times."
That's awesome.
And I'm like, wow, that's coming from you, and it just, I could just feel myself beaming with excitement and joy knowing that somebody who's been blessed enough not to have addiction in their family and doesn't know what it's like to be on either side of the fence, but to feel that, Lori and I always say, we know we're on the right path. Yeah, so
That's great.
with having people like yourself here on the show with us and sharing it, yeah, thumbs up to you for talking about it
Thank
and
you.
getting it out there. And
Is
yeah.
there anything else that you'd like to, just tell the listeners or share with us at this time to,
No, I just think you just do the best that you can during that time frame, and then protect your peace, because that really is important.
Absolutely.
That's all.
Yeah, that's so true. We're so blessed to have you here today, and
Thanks for having me.
yeah.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. Well, another good show. I'll go home, tell my wife it was another great show, and she's going to say, "Yeah, that's what you say all the time," but I believe it. So, yeah, again, thank you for being here with us.
Such a beautiful lady in spirit, and just keep doing
Yep.
what you're doing. You're not doing
thank you.
anything wrong.
No,
Just-
yeah, you're not doing anything wrong. You're doing what all of us have done, especially me, over and over and over. So anyway, again, thank you to all our sponsors out there. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Brad, for everything that you do. You work hard to make sure our podcasts go out on time, and yeah, everything looks great. So thank you so much. Guys, stay tuned for our shows, man. We've got some good ones coming up. I mean, some really, really good ones. You're definitely going to want to follow us, so make sure that you check us out on YouTube or on Resilience Talk Network, our Facebook pages. Brad, didn't you say we just came out on another platform that's coming up here pretty soon? Pandora. We are going to be coming out on Pandora here pretty soon.
Nice.
But guys, stay tuned, because I tell you what, some of these shows, if it doesn't have you sitting in your car or your home bawling, then I don't know what to say, because we've got some great stuff that we're going to share. But thank you for supporting us, everybody, and yeah, keep following us. Get it out there, and remember, addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. Thank you.
And remember, there's always light after darkness.
And if you want to get a hold of us, I don't know why I always forget this part. If you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to me you can reach out to me at Mr. Al Richards on Facebook, or you can do it through email, mralrichards@gmail.com. Lori?
And mine is Lori, Lorie, ChevyGirl@AOL.com, or you can reach me at Lori Warburton on Facebook.
Cool.
Also have my personal business card on there, the Lady in Red First Responder. You can go on my Facebook page, and it will be on there as well if you would like me to come and talk or visit with your family members or anything like that. I'd be happy to do that as well. So,
thank you, Lori. And before we go, I'm not here by myself. I've got this book, and it's kind of hard to see here, but it's called Giants and the Smalls. Now, I know Nicholas Smith. Brad's going to get a little closer to the camera there. There is a Facebook group called the Tribe of Giants, and they have these shows, Waking Up with Giants, throughout the week. This book looks like a child's book because of how they've got the cover and that, and I tell you what, this book is for everybody. And I can probably, like I say, this is the first book I've ever picked up and started reading I didn't put down till I finished it. Now, if it would have been thicker, I don't know, that really would have been testing me. But in all seriously, this is a phenomenal book. There are a lot of people, if you get on the Tribe of Giants, and the reason why I'm promoting these guys is because these are people who have gone through so many things in their life. The people that get on and share their stories, you'll be shocked what some of these people are sharing. It's people who have lived in a small world or felt like that they're small and have turned out to be giants. Highly, highly recommend. So get on Facebook and search for a Tribe of Giants, and then there you can find the Waking Up with Giants. And if you've got something you want to share, reach out to Nicholas and Ryan and Melissa and Nicole. These people are phenomenal people. They've got a lot of knowledge, but reach out to them. Follow their Facebook page. Get this book. You can find it on Amazon. It really is a phenomenal book. Even at age 57, I fell in love with this book. I've read it a couple times. So, guys, thank you again. Thank you for your support, and you guys have an amazing